CTO and I, Andrew Weaver here, CEO at CTO Academy, joined as ever by our resident group CTO and all-round top guy, Sanjay Mistry. Hi, Sanjay.
How you doing, UK?
Great. I really look forward to these recordings, and we've had a bit of a bumpy ride recently, which we shall kind of cover within this particular episode. But as ever, loads of things happening in the tech world. Sanjay, anything that particularly took your eye recently?
So, I hate talking about it, but let's say AI. So I have been using AI more and more as part of my daily workflow, and I'm just constantly blown away, not just with the speed of movement, but actually some of the niche tools that are coming out, and adding them into your workflow just makes so much sense. So Notebook LM is a standout one for me. And Napkin, I've been using Napkin a hell of a lot, and I love it. So yeah, I mean, lots of movement, everyone's talking about it, but actually some really cool use cases at the moment that are really helping.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, it's a very big ticket headline stuff. I mean, IBM have just launched, as we record this, they've just launched. You have to say as we record this these days, because by the time some people have watched stuff, it's kind of moved on. But, IBM have just launched kind of next gen quantum computers, and OpenAI have taken some kind of leap into text to video tech, which all of which I have yet to encounter and will look forward to. One other very big piece of news that gets a lot of conversation in CTO Academy for obvious reasons. Tech industry layoffs. They've allegedly reached a 22-year high, and there was an article in the Sunday Times recently by our ex-Prime Minister about Rishi Sunak about essentially how job profiles, job descriptions have been completely transformed with automation and workforce transformation. And I know that you had a bit of a conversation about that with one of our recent community sessions. But before we jump into other things, any quick thoughts on layoffs and the change of the working culture?
I think it's a transformation, right? So yes, agreed. There are certain roles being impacted, right? And that's a given, and I think that's gonna carry on for a period of time. But I think that will then end, and I do see an evolution of this. I think we'll get new job titles, new roles that we didn't even think of today, let alone 6 months ago. And I think as long as we all are up for, learning and training and doing something slightly different, I think there will be more jobs created out of the back of AI rather than us losing jobs. But I think it's a change. And I think we're in the middle of the change. I think fast forward 12 months, this will be forgotten, right? And we'll be going, oh, aren't these all fantastic? So yes, I think the transition is always the most difficult period.
Very quickly before we move on, just a quick thing on job titles. It's always a very sensitive issue. I think more as you go into larger organisations, the job title becomes more and more important. I'm looking forward to when you're being announced as the group CTPO. Is that likely?
Oh God, it's I had I had a really big debate on that job title with the VC recently, and I lost. So I'm a bit older. I don't care about job titles. I don't think. And in my world, the CTO is the CPO, is the CISO, is whatever, right? And I typically work in small and medium-sized businesses. I used this analogy earlier. And it was a COO of mine that said it, and I love it. And he said, when you're in the leadership team, it's about being on the bus. Doesn't matter what job title that you have and what badge you're holding at that point in time, but you're on the bus, driving the bus with the rest of the executive team. And I think that needs to be remembered. And the job title, yes, is important. I'm not denying it. But just remember you're on the bus, driving the bus and trying to go forward, right?
It's just aim to get on the bus, Sanjay, is what you're basically saying.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, listen, before we move on, a very, very kind thank you and intro to our sponsor, Mixpanel. We're very appreciative of Mixpanel support. I keep watching them on LinkedIn, Sanjay, and they are literally flying. I mean, they really are doing amazing stuff. Just a quick intro. I mean, as CTOs, obviously, you're always chasing after what users need and they want. Mixpanel's analytics make it easy to see what really matters, so there's kind of no more guessing. They have real-time insights. You can spot what features are working, what needs fixing, and keep your team focused on what actually delivers results. And certainly, I think in our view, and certainly in yours, Sanjay, Mixpanel's the kind of tool that every modern tech leader kind of needs in their arsenal. If you're serious about building stuff that people actually love. I know you're a big advocate. We've covered this before, but any quick thoughts?
You used a word that has been very pertinent in the last kind of 6-7 days for me, is the real-timeness. So we had an issue about 3 working days ago, and it was Mixpanel. We spotted the issue through Mixpanel. We put a fix in, and it was Mixpanel that allowed us to track the change. So the business I work for, everything's real time. So we're doing real time Google bidding, and the real-time nature of the analytics from Mixpanel really supports the change, and the difference could be tens of thousands of pounds a day difference if we don't spot it quick enough. So yeah, the tool is fantastic.
Well, listen, we are users as well as advocates, and thank you, Mixpanel, for your sponsorship of the podcast. And also, I must note, they've also been very kind to sponsor some of our global events this year. So huge thanks to that team there. Now, one of our regular listeners, Sanjay, was my mum. And I got to tell the audience, she sadly passed last week. She was a little bit poorly, so sad, but wasn't unexpected. And I have to tell you, she was always very quick to share her thoughts about the show, particularly around the quiz. Now, alongside, I must confess, some production hiccups, we've decided to press pause on the quiz this episode. Hopefully it'll come back shortly. But instead, Sanjay, bearing in mind what's happened certainly in my life, I wanted to take a quick detour and address something that is clearly universally human for all of us, and that is loss and grief, and particularly how, as tech leaders and business leaders, we deal with it. Often, sometimes always catches us off guard and can shift our priorities. So just wanted to explore with you for a few minutes about your view on it and how leaders support themselves and others through these kind of moments.
Yeah, look, and you're going through the emotions at the moment, Andrew, and I went through it a couple of years ago, and it's tough, right? I think what it reminds you is the first thing that you have in a leadership role, or the first persona that you should have in a leadership role, is just being human. So if you have a colleague going through any sort of challenge, so whether they're a colleague, whether they're in your team, whether they're just in the organization, being very human to them is probably the right thing to do. And you know, everyone talks about EQ and, you know, I mean, showing sympathy. There's levels, right? And people get upset with the word sympathy when, you shouldn't show them sympathy, you should show empathy. And I've kind of just ignored all of that and just gone, just be human to them, right? Just say the most natural thing, the virtual arm around the shoulder type thing, and just listen. And I think that's important. And when I've had people in my team have challenges, so whether it's a loss or any sort of challenge, it's just being very human and pragmatic in terms of how you solve it. And I think in situations like you've been recently, it's kind of go do your thing with your family, with your loved ones, and when you're back, we'll solve whatever we need to solve from an admin point of view. And that's the approach that I've always taken. And actually, it's the approach that's always worked for me. So yeah, that's my go-to tactic for these situations.
I think everybody listening and watching would hope that they have you as their CTO and their leader with that approach. I mean, certainly from a very, very obviously a raw and personal perspective. Here are a couple of things I've recognised in myself. The first is that grief is obviously very, very personal. It's hyper personal. You cannot possibly understand what the other person is going through. And I, for example, am fairly robust. We were kind of expecting it. It wasn't a great surprise to us. But I tell you what has happened to me. There have been random moments in the last few days whilst working where I've just suddenly started reflecting, suddenly started remembering and maybe even catching up a little bit on some of the grief. For yourself, we talk a lot about vulnerability at CTO Academy and not being afraid to show it. And I know you're a huge fan of Brené Brown and new book has come out and all that kind of stuff. But I think this is a arena where that vulnerability is crucial. I've even sent out heart emojis this week, Sanjay, to
Wow.
people who've said, nice things to me. I would never probably have done that a week or two ago. So, just being sensitive, accepting you're going to be a little vulnerable, accepting you're not going to operate at an absolute high level, because these moments will suddenly flood you, as they have me. And as I say, I was relatively prepared for it. I think the other obvious thing is perspective. And I don't mean just perspective about your own life, because obviously, these kind of major life moments do give you perspective. So do reflect on where you are in your life and what you want to do with the rest of it. But I think also perspective about other people around you and how you lead them. Because there is a risk of all of us, including me, very much me, that you can hit autopilot. You can come in the morning, you can have your to-do list, you can have your targets, you can have your stand-up, you know what you want to achieve with all of these things, and you just rattle through them, right? And you don't actually step back a little bit and understand what other people might be going through. So again, it just allowed me, or has forced me, to take that little bit of extra perspective about how I lead other people, what challenges they might be going through at the same time, most of which you don't know about. So
Yes.
I think vulnerability, perspective, and just giving yourself a little space has been important for me.
Yeah, I think that space element is so important in leadership, and remembering when you were in a similar situation to someone that you work with, and trying to reflect on that moment and going, and everyone's different in how they manage grief or challenges, but just going, what did I need at that point in time, and can I give that to that individual, or can I just, like you said, give them space? Because like you said, grief, especially grief, is very, very personal. When I went through it with my own father a couple of years ago, me and my siblings all went through it in a different way. But it was, process. You had to just work through it, and bizarrely, work was really good because it gave me just an anchor to reality with all the craziness going around. So again, as in a leadership position, if someone has gone through a challenging point, but they're just working really hard, make sure they know that they've got time and space, but actually remember they may be using that just to anchor themselves with all the madness that's going around them. So again, just be compassionate of the other side of it.
Yeah, and just a quick final thought, again, probably stating the obvious, but kind of unresolved grief causes leaders to sometimes become isolated and frustrated. So in terms of a healthy coping mechanism, peer support, self-care builds your resilience. So leverage those when you need it, and feel comfortable about reaching out. And hopefully you have got a network that you can reach out to if those situations and when those situations arise. Okay, thank you for that, Sanjay. We will look towards the quiz again in the future. But in the meantime, a couple of quick things. Have you been to Brighton, Sanjay?
I've not. No, it's on my list. No, I've done a lot on the south coast, but not Brighton.
Oh, well, for those who are watching or listening to this from outside the UK and perhaps not aware, Brighton is on the south coast of England, almost directly beneath London, probably about 50 miles. A very famous town in England, and strange kind of cultural relationship with Brighton. Actually, there's a very famous book called Brighton Rock. There's been a lot of movies made down there. Anyway, the point of all this is we're covering it in our Around the World in 80 Seconds. We've got someone from Silicon Brighton who's going to deliver us their perspective on the Brighton tech scene. So who have we got as the guest this week in the Fireside Chat, Sanjay?
So this is a really exciting one for me. So this is Chinmay, who's Senior VP at Mixpanel. And we did the interview during the event, the London event, and I dragged him out. And we went, and it's my first ever face-to-face fireside chat. So it was a lot of fun recording it. I actually had a lot of time with Chinmay just talking as we were walking to the recording venue and walking back. And so we had a lovely chat, not just about high performance teams, but we just had a general chat. And it was, it's a lovely interview. So hopefully everyone enjoys it. Chinmay, thanks for joining me. This is my first session face to face with someone, so thank you for doing this. So Chinmay is based on the west coast of America,
San
but he's
Francisco.
down in London for a conference, and we're like, hey, this is a great opportunity to do this face to face. So we're gonna just dive in, and we're gonna be talking about high performance. So can you define what high performance means to you?
Yeah, first of all, glad to be here and excited to do this in person. So speaking of high performance, I think if I had to give a one-line definition of a high-performing team, I would say it's a team that consistently delivers meaningful outcomes while moving fast. If I have to elaborate on that, there's sort of like three parts to that definition, right? I can go in a little bit more detail. The first part there is the meaningful outcomes part, which is probably the most important, I would say, in my opinion. And in most contexts, like a company context, a meaningful outcome would be something on the lines of customer value,
Yes,
and business outcomes.
Yeah.
Right. In the context of engineering, I feel engineering teams should own those outcomes, customer
Yes.
value, business outcomes. It's not just about shipping projects.
yes,
It's a means to an end,
Yes.
but it's not the end.
yeah,
I think engineering teams should be responsible for delivering the final value.
So the value creation for your customers, right?
Exactly.
Rather than shipping a line of code that does something.
Exactly, because when engineers are held responsible for that, and also for innovation, to be honest, because once you make sure that your engineering team knows that hey, the ideas also have to come from the team. You're responsible for innovating, pushing the boundaries, and at the end of the day, creating that customer value, which then translates to business value. That's when you get like massive outcomes. It is very common for engineering teams to get disconnected from, especially as companies get bigger and so on. And that's a real miss, I feel, on the part of true.
What was really interesting, so your one-line definition, you use the word consistently.
Yes.
Right? And I guess that's part of it. So I guess on the road to becoming high performant,
yes,
you're going to have peaks and troughs, and that's okay, right?
Yes, totally.
But when you get there, it's at a level, and you
absolutely.
stay there.
I would put that in. Yes, you're right. And there's the two more parts, right? One is the speed part, and then third is the consistency part. And what you're talking about, 100% agree. It goes sort of up and down, but I think it falls in both buckets. On the speed front, the way I think about it is speed is obviously very important.
Sure.
Right? And in fact, if you just ask someone like, hey, what's high performance? Speed is probably like one of the first things that people would say. I have never heard of a team that's been very successful by moving very slow, right? So it's like it's sort of that's your proof by sort of, what is it called?
By example, right? That's life.
So I think moving fast is essential, but there's a nuance there. Moving fast, again, just for the sake of checking boxes, like checking boxes fast is not the thing that matters. It's iterating fast, it's trying fast. It's working as hard as you can while trying to get to that outcome. It's okay if you're wrong the first few times, but as long as you're moving fast in the right direction, it's that overall velocity vector that matters.
So failure is okay as long as you know you fail fast.
Yes.
And you keep working towards the outcome that you're trying to get.
Exactly. Like one, and it depends on your industry and what type of bet you want to place, etc. And it's and what type of problem you're trying to solve. I like the Apple example where none of these things, whether it was the iMac or the iPhone, like they weren't built in a day. It took a long time.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean it was just moving slowly. They're doing a lot of things, iterating a lot. Every little detail, takes a lot of time to polish. Then it all comes together for a fantastic product.
Yes.
I like Apple products, as you can tell. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it's that iteration at speed that you're talking about, right? So the ability to kind of go, we've got an outcome in mind. We can iterate and make our own decisions. We can fail fast and learn from it. And I guess that's how you define high performance.
Absolutely.
I love that. So for me...
On the third part.
Oh, cool, yeah,
yes.
Sorry.
Yeah. I think then coming to the third part, which is the consistency bit, that I think is more about, when you talk about legendary companies or teams, artists, inventors, you usually the one-hit wonders don't come to mind.
That's right.
It's the 90s Chicago Bulls basketball reference, I guess. Yeah. Or since we are in London, your 60s Beatles or Isaac Newton. I was like, throwing in some British examples in there. Just, teams that have just repeatedly created value.
Yes.
Or even extending the Apple example. It wasn't just, it's one thing. They did. Even the process of, let's say, one of the things they produced was long, but it was the iMac and then the iPod and the iPhone and MacBook just kept going, right?
Yeah.
And if you, so I think that's very, very important because things change around you all the time, right?
Yes.
So you gotta adapt and be flexible and sort of evolve and change. And I think a team that can do that, I feel it's an essential ingredient in calling a team high performing. I feel, and all major companies that everybody knows about, Google, Amazon, Netflix, all of them have gone through so many changes, but they've sort of continued to innovate and come out successful.
Yeah. And that kind of speed, the consistency, I guess that's important. So it's not about getting to your outcome fast, but it's about consistently iterating and moving towards your outcome that you're talking about.
Like as fast as possible.
Yes.
Right. But while focusing on the outcome, not just like, oh, I did my thing.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of things.
And that's common, right? Where people just go, I'm going to do this fast. I'm going to tick these boxes and say I've shipped code. But if the code is not meeting the outcomes, is not even moving in the right direction, the outcomes, then that's not high performance. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that is a tick box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's an easy thing to do. I think people fall in that trap because like it's very much in my control.
Yes.
If you say, hey, you are doing a great job if you're shipping a lot of code. I can ship a lot of code. I can just write something right now. So that's the easy part.
Yeah.
The uncomfortable part is when like you don't know what's going to happen after you need to try. Things will fail and so on.
How do you know when you got there? So if we talk about Apple, right? It's interesting. I'm not an Apple fanboy.
Yes.
This is good, right?
Google fan.
But what I do like about Apple is the consistency and the quality, right? And I've read all the books and blah blah blah, and what I like is they never rushed because it was done when it was right, right? And again, if we come back to that kind of philosophy for high performance, how do you know when you've got there? So do you use metrics? How do you measure high performance?
Yeah.
So what do you do in your world?
No, absolutely. That's a great question. And interestingly, I asked this. We did like a sort of a working session with my management team, and we discussed this in that meeting.
Oh, really?
And the prompt was, what are the attributes of a high performing team?
Yeah.
Because sort of the overall, the mission, the goal the vision that I wanted to set is how can we build the best engineering team in the world?
Yes.
Right. And so it came from that. And we were like, okay, what are the attributes of a high-performing team, like the best engineering team in the world? How do we define that? And I have the list actually with me today. Let me. I can share some points from the things that people brought up. There was one was these are the attributes of a high-performing team. One, execute fast with high quality. Drive innovation. Make a lot of money.
Okay, that's right. I was waiting for the pound notes.
Then there was, ownership mindset and a few things around that. Even the confidence that comes with that. So confident about building anything or solving any problem, like the let's do it attitude.
Yes.
Right? They know when they don't need permission to do the right thing.
Okay.
Right. Then there were some things around teamwork, like if a team is high performing, it's rarely that just one person stands out. It's the whole team usually. It's like, this is a solid team. Right. So there's some stuff around teamwork. And then there were some sentiment signals, like other teams say great things about the team. Other world-class engineers want to join the team. Engineers want to stay on the team. And people are proud to be a part of this team. So I think that was sort of the list of attributes. I was like, this is actually a pretty good list. Coming to your point of how you measure that, whether it's metrics or signals, I think just based on the list, as you can see, some of that is measurable, and there are, we do measure some of those things. We have the metrics for them. For example, in terms of outcomes, you obviously measure your revenue and your customer NPS. Do customers like the product or not? In terms of even employees, we have an employee NPS. Would you recommend this place to a friend to work? And we do that quarterly, so we have that data and we can break it down by teams and everything. Of course, if you're working on the product, we have product metrics. We use Mixpanel for that.
Of course you do.
And then of course the sort of throughput metrics, the actual raw output with your GitHub, likes, how many PRs, etc. Which again we use more as a reference rather than sort of like that is the goal, as I said, to optimize. But it's good to at least know. You need visibility. Right? You can't be like, I have no idea what anybody does. We do want to check, like, hey, what happened in the last month or 3 months, or whatever. We do these reviews, and it's a good check. But then I feel to layer on that, I think the one big thing I do feel is, give me 1 second. So I think one thing with metrics, though, you got to be careful is some of the most important metrics are very often very lagging. So like your revenue might be lagging, your employee retention could be lagging. It's like you'll know a year later.
It's not a real-time signal.
It's not a real-time signal. And some of the real-time signals, if you make that the objective of the team without adding more context, they're easy to game. As I said, like your lines of code, anyone can write lines. So I think the other thing, rather the main thing I depend on is 360 feedback. That's a very important part of what I do, what my team does, and that's being very candid and thorough with feedback, manager feedback as well as peer feedback. And that's a little bit of a sort of the system checks for itself, in the sense that if you keep a high bar, if the people on the team know what that bar looks like, it's sort of self-maintaining in that sense. And I think that's where it's important. How to build great products, you need product taste. To design great products, you need design. You need taste. I think same thing applies to building teams and people. You need to have that judgment of what does good look like. And to be honest, it's a bit of that's a hard problem. I've seen that you know what good looks like if you have been a part of a high performing team.
Right. That's right. Yeah, you got to model in your own mind.
Yes,
right?
yes. And so that's a bit of a recursive definition.
Yeah.
And the base case there, I think, is a bit of like, hey, that's kind of like a unique, it's a sort of magical thing. Nobody knows how it starts,
Yeah.
but you know how to repeat it.
Yeah.
So I think the managers do need to have that judgment. I think some of your key engineering leaders, whether they're ICs or managers, I feel need to have that judgment and have that alignment with you.
Yeah.
As the engineering leader.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of build on top of that.
Yeah, I think what I found really interesting is you talked about other people are commenting on your high performing team. So other people are observing something that they like, and they say that's good, or they want to be part of it, right? And for me, that'd be a real-time signal to say,
Yeah.
they're doing something good. I don't know how to, maybe I don't have a KPI, right?
Yeah.
But I don't have something tangible, but it's tangible when someone says, I want to be part of it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because we all want to be part of success and
Yes.
good, and you want to work with high performers because it takes you up a notch as
Yes.
well, right?
Absolutely.
So I like the fact that you use some of those kind of non-tangible signals,
Yeah.
non-KPIs.
And you're right. Like you can't like have a dashboard for that,
Right.
but it's kind of measurable, semi. Like you can
Yeah.
tell the hiring is going really like we're seeing great engineers here. Of course, the definition of great when you don't have too much data.
Yeah.
It's got to take that, but still, hiring or internal sentiment
Yes.
might be through messages or people transferring teams even.
Yes.
In a larger organization.
Yes.
Things like that. You're right. Those can be like fast signals.
They're good signals. So I think my next question is difficult. Well, I think it's difficult, which is you're there. You've built a high performing team. You've built high performing teams. But we know in technology and engineering and AI is smashing this as well. Everything is changing at pace. And that pace seems to be getting faster and faster. So whether that's innovation, desire, customer expectation, especially with AI coming in, the world is not, it's not a steady growth, right? We're not seeing steady change. We're seeing rapid change at the moment. And with change, how do you maintain high performance? Because I think trying to keep up with that pace is a challenge.
Yeah.
So what are you doing in your organization to ensure that your team stays high performing?
Yeah, I think that's again really good question, and this sort of relates to the consistency part that
Yes.
I mentioned before, where you want a team that can do it again and again, even though all the conditions around them are changing.
Yes.
The market changes, competition changes, technology changes, your suppliers, vendors, like all the stuff that around you is changing. So I think the way I think about it is, again, it's not, for me, it's not very like top down where it's like, hey, let's change now. I feel I think it again starts with the team.
Yeah.
If you build a team that can lead change, then a lot of these other things get taken care of. Like the team is trying to think about what to do, next, and what are the right problems to solve, etc. Versus just waiting for someone else to give them a problem. Right?
Yes.
And I think so one part is even in your hiring process, for example, screening for people who are problem solvers, curious, and so on. The other thing I think is connecting your team with the truths or the raw signals as much as possible, so that they're not shielded from, they're not like 3 layers removed from customers and the reality and the data.
Yes.
Get all of that into direct as much as possible directly in the hands of the team.
Yeah. So they can tangibly see the outcome. So whatever they're
the
doing.
outcomes and also the inputs.
Yes.
Like, raw customer sentiment feedback.
Yeah. Okay.
And we are a B2B SaaS company.
Yeah.
And it is important. In B2B SaaS, you do have to move much faster than in some other domains. And we are a very data-driven company, as you could. Yes, it's Mixpanel.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's a great thing. We're not like, data alone doesn't drive our decisions, but it's a very important part of our decision-making process. Yeah. And a big part of our culture is giving, us democratizing data with Mixpanel, like direct customer data. That's one huge thing. Even our business data, every engineer in the company, knows our revenue. It's actually, we have our revenue on a daily basis in Mixpanel.
Right.
Real time. But also things like engineers can see how does it vary by segment, and you can break it down however, or how's my self-serve growth business doing versus enterprise,
right.
etc. We have and then a bunch of business data is available to engineers. They can go look at it. It's not that they look at it on a daily basis, but it's available, and of course on a quarterly reports, etc. It gets shared. And then, but the cultural part, it's there, right?
Yeah.
And then just raw customer feedback as well. We have Slack channels where we have integrated direct, like, in-product feedback. Anytime someone gives in-product feedback, that just goes to a Slack channel, and everybody is on there. Our NPS score, anytime anyone submits an NPS score, goes into a Slack channel. And again, in the B2B SaaS context, we have win-loss notes of every deal go into a Slack channel.
Oh, wow.
Everybody looks at that, win and loss, and we can just parse the whole thing. So people are consuming all of this directly raw, right? And of course, some of it comes through, maybe a salesperson is translating it a little bit, etc. But you also have the raw data. So you have the metrics, you have qualitative, you have direct, and engineers talk to customers as well, quite a bit. So you are directly, you're in the problem.
Yeah.
Right? So when things are changing, what are people like, what do they want? How can we really solve the problems? So I think that's and as a leader, I think then being rigorous with sort of like, okay, let's know what's going on, and being rigorous with data, I think, is one. But then that brings me to the other part, which is, I think with all these changes, things change rapidly. I think focus is also equally important.
Yeah.
Right? You can't keep getting distracted by every single thing. There's a lot of shiny balls.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Shiny objects.
Yeah.
And you gotta at the end of the day, pick your best bet.
Yeah.
That makes sense for your business, your product, which will drive the most value, differentiation.
Yeah.
And then drive conviction in the organization as a leader, so that then these other things stop becoming a distraction, and then you can focus and have at least like some time period before you again come back and look at all of the things. So I think it's a balance of both.
Yes. Do you think, as you maintain high performance, some people are not okay with that journey? Have you seen or have you experienced where you lose people on that journey because they can't maintain it? So you talked about a lot of raw data, and I love that, and it's the way I operate. So the good and the bad goes in, and it allows people to make their own judgments. Like all organizations, you go through ups and downs. Whatever size of up and down it is, there's an up and down, and some people don't like periods of down. So do you in that process lose people, and are you okay with losing people during that journey?
Yeah, I think, yes, I think, it's not a bad thing to lose people. Which is sometimes, I think there's like this learned behavior, I guess, which sometimes managers have to unlearn, where people just like, oh, retention is super important. I'm going to go, it's just,
Where
that's
KPI
my job.
can be a bad thing,
Yes,
right?
yeah. It's like, that's my job. I want to make sure everybody's happy and nobody leaves. It's like, no, it's like, it's an important aspect. But again, it's not like the end all be all. Don't make compromises for that. So I think, yes, it's okay, I feel, to lose people in that journey. But at the same time, I think when there are people who have performed, they can perform, ideally you want to align them and get them motivated. That's the ideal situation. And I think in times when, as Mixpanel, we have gone through, a lot of different phases in the company. I've been at the company for more than 9 years.
So you've seen
definitely
lots of change.
Lots of change, lots of ups and downs. And I think in those moments, obviously at each of these, points of change, we lost some people, but people stuck around as well.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was getting people excited about the problem and the opportunity. And if you have the problem solvers, they are going to like problems.
Yeah.
And then sort of collecting all of that, all of the signals, what's changed, but then converging on a very high conviction sort of vision.
Yeah.
I think those are the things that can get people motivated again, and then up for it again.
I think that comes back to kind of full circle around consistency, right? In terms of you talking about problem solvers. So yeah, you're going through, a not so good period. It may not be a dip. It may just be not the growth that you've been on for the last 6 months, right?
Yeah.
And everyone reads data differently. But if you've got consistency in your team, in the sense of consistently wanting to succeed and meet customer outcomes, right? An expectation, it's just another problem to solve, right?
Yes, exactly.
And if people don't want to be on that journey and therefore that's going to drive your high performing team down, it's okay. Like, obviously you want to keep good people, but they have to be willing, I guess, to stay on the journey with you. And it can be tiring, right? People are different phases of their life, different things going on in their personal lives as well. So I think, it's okay. And I think that for me, it's, I've learned that over the last 10 years is acceptance, right? It's, individuals are very important to me, but the team is my first focus, right? And it's a challenge.
Absolutely.
So, okay, high performance, getting to a high performance team is a journey, right? As a leader, as a new leader, as someone going into a brand new role, what's the first step that I should be taking towards building a high performing team? So it's a journey, right? But what's the first step that you would always recommend?
Yeah, I think whether it's whether you are starting from scratch or inheriting, or sometimes even like a regroup, reset, a refresher for the team. I think there are some tools I feel that you can use. One is sort of getting, the key people that you have, or if you don't have, hiring. And really defining what that high performance bar is, or what it means for us. The example I gave with the exercise that I did with my team, that we hired quite a few new managers over the last 18 months. So it's not that like I'm still the leader of the team, so it wasn't like a new management or something like that. But the team had changed considerably, so I was like, hey, let's do this again. Right? So I think something like that helps a lot, where it's like, hey, let's align, and what does it mean to be high performing, so that then you can actually act on it and get there. And you can, I think, all the stuff we just discussed on what does it mean to be high performing, what are that attributes. Once you have that set up, that helps you through that journey, right? I think the thing to definitely not forget here is that hiring is one of your biggest tools.
Yeah.
And that's like, if so, because sometimes we get very hiring is hard as well, though.
Yes.
Right? And
Draining.
it is draining for sure. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes focus. So sometimes it's like tempting to be like, hey, let me just try to salvage what I have, or let's just go with what we have. But that's also very that's also very, very draining and,
Yeah, it
and
is,
time
yeah.
consuming, and it's you lose a lot of time in that process, right? So I feel like sometimes people don't leverage hiring enough. I'm sure I've also made that mistake in the past. I feel like I've made the mistake of not setting these expectations very early on as well, and sort of like learned that, like, I assume things that I'm like, oh, if my previous team worked that way, this new team is going to work the same way, and it's like it's not true.
Different set of people.
Yeah,
different
exactly.
characters.
So I think especially with inheriting, right?
Yeah.
That happens. There are differences in
Yeah.
what people think is good versus bad, the culture, etc. I think doing that as soon as possible is something that I learned over time. And then finally, I think there's just like some tools, some things that you can use if whether you are sort of coming in new to a company, as I said, or you're rebooting or doing inheriting, etc. The team is growing, your needs change. I feel just things like depending on the size, the phase you are at, writing down your cultural values or your engineering principles, maybe having a leveling guide, just make expectations clear again.
Yeah.
Another example is through the hiring process, standard, like having rubrics, defining who are we hiring, what cultural alignment, what values, what attributes are we looking for. So being more systematic with these things goes a long way, right? In sort of building that. As I mentioned before, the feedback loop, which I value a lot. 360 feedback, managers feedback, and utilizing that, which I think that's probably one of the, again, very important thing that I try to spend a lot of time on when I'm inheriting a team or starting something new, because that gives you so much rich, and everybody sort of like, gets it then.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the full picture. This is what I expect, and just like, and it's bi-directional. Again, sometimes it's like, okay, like, hey, if we don't agree here, it's okay. If you want to leave or do something else. But we need to have that level setting.
And it's that setting the bar, right?
Yes.
It's kind of going, for me, because everyone's individual, right? And like you said, depending on the phase of the organization, this is the bar. This is what the bar is. These are the attributes to get to the bar. 360 helps you kind of figure out where everyone is, and then the delta, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that as a good jump off point, right, for people, because it is a difficult journey. Chinmay, thank you for joining me on this podcast, my first podcast face to face. So it's been a great conversation, great topic. Hope everyone's enjoyed it, and hopefully speak soon.
Absolutely. It was awesome. I enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Great stuff, Sanjay. As always, I love your fireside chats, and having never been involved in the arena of a high-performing team or worked with a high-performance team, I actually found that genuinely fascinating. Very, very quick kind of asterisk to that interview is that Chinmay was very kind to give us his time during the Mixpanel event in June of 2025. It has taken us some time to get this particular episode out. So Chinmay, I believe Sanjay has moved on. Is that right from Mixpanel?
Yeah. He's moved on into a CTO role for a startup. So I think Chinmay spent like 7-8 years at Mixpanel and drove an amazing engineering team, right? I think it's, if you talk about high performance, Mixpanel's engineering team is definitely high performance. So he's left a huge legacy, and I know he's going to be really missed at Mixpanel. But yeah, he's gone to a startup, so he's going to go and do the scaling journey again. I think that's his sweet spot. But he's left us with some, great insights with that interview. So
Yeah, no, absolutely wonderful. And again, having not been in that world, I think the two or three things I guess I took most out of it: value creation. It's not just about shipping code, failing fast, keep moving. It's like Facebooky element to that, but clearly that's very important. Let's do attitude and recognition from peers was quite an interesting point that I picked up on.
Yeah, I think they're all brilliant points, right? I think the value creation for me was super interesting because it was about remembering you're not just an engineer, and actually the high performance comes when you create something that consumers love, right? So if you can get engineering teams, product teams, whatever you want to call them, closer to your customer and they see the delight, you then get this flywheel effect of, oh, I've created delight. What can I now do to create the next bit of delight? And all of a sudden you create value creation. That value creation then drives that high performance, right? Because that's what the business needs. So yes, you will be shipping code as an engineer, but the delight always matters. So I really, really love that. I think the let's do it attitude kind of is hand in hand with failing fast, right? We're not quite sure what we're about to do, and everyone inside technology that's listening to this will know this. It's like, I don't know. I think I've got a very good idea. I've got a hypothesis of how I'm going to do this. And it's, let's do it. Let's go for it. But actually, if we make a mistake, it's okay, right? Let's just make a mistake really quickly. Let's crack on. And I think I think it's a combination. You need that let's do attitude. And there needs to be psychological safety within the organization for you to have that attitude, right? So I think when people talk about failing fast, can't do it unless you've got psychological safety. The final point that he made, which really, really stuck around high performance teams, because I asked him, how do you know you've got it? How do you know you've got a high performance team? And I loved his answer in the sense of, when other people want to be in that team, when other people talk about that team, you've probably got it, right? And it was such a simple measure for me anyway, of going, well, that's a great way of defining.
No, I liked it. No, I agree. I picked up on that as well. So listen, thank you again, Sanjay. Brilliant stuff. We're going to conclude this episode with a trip to the south coast of the UK, around the world, around the tech world, I should say, in 80 seconds with Grace from Silicon Brighton. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. Hello and welcome to Around the Tech World in 80 Seconds. And Brighton is a venue, a city that has always held a bit of a fascination for me. From reading Graham Greene's Brighton Rock, which was written in, I think, the late 40s, then the movie Quadrophenia, when I was a bit of going through my mod phase, was set in Brighton. And now it's kind of unique blend of seaside energy and thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem has kind of led to it now having some very exciting tech and digital companies emerging from Brighton, which is why I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Grace Pryor for this particular episode. Welcome, Grace, co-founder of Silicon Brighton. Great to see you.
Oh, thank you very much, Andrew. Yes, so I have the pleasure and privilege of running Silicon Brighton. We are a non-profit and our whole mission is around putting Brighton on the map as being a tech and digital hub. So that is not about competing with other cities. We're certainly not saying that Brighton's the biggest or the best. All that we are saying is that actually if cities come together to create and nurture communities, then actually the industry as a whole gets better recognised, more funding, better support, and then on the whole it's better for innovation essentially.
Well, I'm very thrilled to have you. I mean, I'm in West London, 50 miles down the road is Brighton, and we go very regularly. So this is a particular episode I'm looking forward to hearing more about the tech culture and ecosystem down in Brighton. Grace, thank you for joining us. Are you ready for your 80 seconds?
I'm ready.
Right. Okay. We're going to set the clock. My wonderful producers are going to add the clock to the episode, and we are going to start from now. Grace, what makes Brighton stand out as a tech hub?
Well, as you said, we are just down the road from London, so we've got amazing geographical links, whilst also being right on the seafront. So we are London by the sea. Not only that, we're a really entrepreneurial city. So it means that if you want to start something up or set something up or give something a go, people are super, super receptive to it. And it makes creating something new and techie really easy to explore.
Awesome. And what sectors have kind of driven growth or are central to the ecosystem?
I feel like if I say AI, then I'm just going to be the boring one, but I kind of have to say it because it is really important. And actually, AI is giving all cities and all industries actually a level playing field, because we're all kind of starting and learning as we go. So there's no reason why Brighton, over any other city, could become a real centre of excellence. But we're also really known for gaming down here as well, and we've got some really cool studios doing some really great stuff.
Awesome. Now we're running short on time, so I'm going to ask you some quick answers here. Any standout companies, particularly for those watching from around the world, that have come out of Brighton or are based there?
Yeah, a couple of big ones. So trusted house sitters, who people might know if they are travelling around the world, either looking for people to look after their pets or looking to look after pets in exchange for free accommodation. It's a lovable brand.
I reckon Trusted House Sitters is so Brighton. It's brilliant. I didn't know that they came from Brighton. We've gone over the time, but I don't care. We can make up the rules every day. It's our own podcast. Aside from Silicon Brighton, local events, ways that people can plug into the local economy, the local ecosystem?
We actually run a flagship conference, which we did for the first time this year in July, and it's called Evolve. It was Evolve 25. We're going to run it next year as well. It happened at Brighton Dome and brought 1,000 people together across 3 stages for one day.
Awesome. It might even tempt me down next year. I'm going to come to that one, Grace. All right, can you capture Brighton in 5 words?
It's hard, but I'll try. Entrepreneurial, quirky, collaborative, laid back, beautiful.
On those wonderful notes, Grace Pryor, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You've been listening to an episode of Me, My CTO and I, with special thanks to Sanjay Mistry, Chinmay Barve, Grace Pryor, and our great sponsors at Mixpanel. Until next time.